Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of UHS Presents. I am joined, as per the usual, by my co-host Lori Foster. Hey Lori.
Hey.
Everything happened all at once there. It was weird. How are you today?
I'm great. We had an interesting time. We dropped some UHS packages off at the post office, and there was some guy there from California who needed a jump for his car, so we gave him a jump. Interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's so weird. Like, that used to be a thing that I noticed happened a lot when I was younger, that people were always like dead batteries galore, and now I don't. It's been years. Like, I don't even carry jumper cables in my car anymore. And now that I've said that, something bad's gonna happen. So.
Right.
Shit. Anyhows. What do we have for UHS news review today?
I mean, the main thing is that Stan's art book launch is tomorrow. The Kickstarter launch. Very excited. That should be around. I mean, we're gonna go live at 5 Eastern, but we'll probably launch at 5:30. Brian, if you're watching, Brian keeps giving me shit. He's like, "You go live and you don't launch," and I'm like, "Well, I need to give people some time."
Yeah, that's the idea. Is like, so it's not going to be immediate, so that, you know, Mike and Morgan, they can all be right there, ready with their fingers on their mices. My brains
on their mice. Sure.
And get ready. Yeah, get the buy button ready, you know, and that way they have that. But yeah, like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I guess as long as, well, you've warned him now. You've warned Brian. You've warned everybody. So, Astian's here. Rad Star Father on Twitch is here. Says, "Hey, howdy." Hey. Katie's here. Hey, Katie. Twee is here, out of frame.
It's only a matter of time before he'll be in frame.
Yeah, he was last week, you know, I had all the art shit, and he was actually in cat jail because I knew something terrible would happen, and then he got let out right at the end there.
And then there's cat prints all over your painting, and
yeah, well, it's Katie's painting.
That's true. It is Katie's painting now.
Adds to the charm, yeah. It didn't take as long for that thick bead of glue to dry as I thought it was gonna, but it did kind of traveled a little bit, and I wasn't expecting that. So, well, I mean, I was expecting some, but not quite as much as it did. Anyway,
it's just sparkles.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's craft herpes. It's gonna be there. I knew it was gonna be everywhere anyway because it's glitter. So
exactly.
All right. Well, tonight we are going to be nerding with Matt. I mean, everybody knows Matt, right? We got the kaiju guy. Like, I didn't even know what kaiju were until I met Matt. So I had heard the word before, but I didn't really look into what the meaning of it was. So,
well, now you're in deep.
And now I know. And I actually, like, I didn't expect to enjoy all these monster movies as much as I have been. So that's cool too. I'm learning a lot and I'm having fun. So, okay. So yeah, we got Matt and we got Caston is here too to talk about it. Just hair. It's just everywhere.
Just
right into the chapstick.
Yes. Oh yeah. As soon as you put the chapstick on, it's just there's a whole cap. Oh yeah.
Magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's a time. It's a day. Okay. So let's see. Caston's here first, so I'm gonna put her in first. Hello, Caston.
Hi. I'm so excited.
Javon just popped in and said hi. Said good evening.
Hey,
so thanks for
Good
joining us.
tomorrow.
And
Caston is so much more colorful. I feel I need
I'm a
more color.
walking motherfucking rainbow.
And everything. Just got a lot going on here. So all right, and then of course, let's bring on Matt. Hi, Matt.
Oh.
Peace be unto you, my children. For our splendid lady is here to bring you peace and everlasting kindness. Though she may wrecketh thine shit, we must all bask in her glory. Mosura ya, Mosura, Dongan Kasakuya, Indomu. Hi, everyone.
Beautiful.
Should we say amen? I mean,
no, that's the amen. Is the Mosura ya Mosura, and you have to do the whole song, and that's how you keep her from destroying you and your entire civilization.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're safe now. We're okay.
Yes, we're safe now. I mean, I have her fairies right here, but but Mothra is all here too, so we're safe for now.
Excellent.
and you're one of the fairies tonight as well.
Yes.
You know, I got
honorary fairy.
See all of the glory.
Appreciate this all this work that you put into this.
Amazing.
I mean, the hair alone must have taken so long.
Hi, Rad Star Father. Peace be unto you, blessed by our resplendent lady.
Rad Star Father also complimented the rainbow shirt, Caston, but was quickly overshadowed here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we can't top that. I just
That's it. That's the show.
End the show now. We're done.
That's the show.
Roll credits.
We're done. So I gotta tell you, I had that song in my head for hours last night. I was just going, and it was like,
yeah, it's a real earworm, sung and performed by, of course, the Peanuts, Emi and Yumi Ito. But that's that leads us into the movie that we're discussing, because I can't remember, Sarah, if you actually name dropped the film yet.
Well, we did tell people that we were going to be talking about Mothra last week, but I should not be the one to do it because I don't remember the name of the film because it's all in Japanese.
It's just Mothra.
This one's just Mothra. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I thought that, but I was like, it's like the last one. I was like, oh, Godzilla, but it was more than just Godzilla. So
I'm having fun.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I'll give us our little introduction for today's Matt Monster Monday. So we are watching, just for those who didn't hear what the announcement was or somehow didn't know based on all of the links I was sharing, we watched the original Mothra, 1961, which was one of the first kaiju movies, one of the first tokusatsu movies of this type to be filmed in color. And it was directed by Ishiro Honda, the director of the original Godzilla and, of course, many other films. And a lot of people think that the music was composed by Akira Ifukube, who did a lot of kaiju movies at the time. But it was not. And this shows my crippling unprofessionalism because I did not look up the name of the composer for this film. But yeah, so I'm very, very excited to be talking about this. As you can see, my children.
Oh, after we watched the first one, I was like, okay, I need to see more about Mothra, because does Mothra always get kind of a bum deal? I hear Mothra's not as celebrated, I guess, as the others, but yet I've also heard the name drop in, like, I only can remember Supernatural right now, but like Mothra's name gets dropped in lots of pop culture, lots of media.
Mothra is, in a lot of ways, ubiquitous to this genre the same way Godzilla is. One second. Ubiquitous to this genre the same way Godzilla is. Like, Mothra, especially in Japan, if you plug Mothra into your movie, there was a hot minute there where you were guaranteed to make bank, because, like, there was a Godzilla versus Mothra that came out in 1992, and it almost beat Jurassic Park at the Japanese box office.
Wow.
Like, it was a massive success. And I don't think any Godzilla movies have beat that one since, but it at least as far as attendance goes. But this is not going to work. So I'll do more flair later. I need to gesticulate. So Mothra is one of those characters, though, that is so distinctly Japanese. Like, I've often said that Godzilla is a, what is it?
Rat Star Father's comment.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just like, hello, are we, what stream are we in? Are we talking about Fortnite? Well, guess what? I'm about to grab this bull by the horns. Okay, so, so Mothra is one of those, so Godzilla, gotta restart. So Godzilla is, I would say, the germ of the idea behind Godzilla as a monster starts as a Western concept through a Japanese lens. Whereas with Mothra is distinctly Japanese. Ironically, considering that her movie has a very international feel to it. Like Mothra is really popular, but I would say in America specifically, a lot of people for a long time didn't get Mothra. Like the common joke was, a giant moth, that's not scary. And it's like, it's not supposed to be, you lunatic. Like,
well, it's supposed to be pacifist, right? Which is not really something we think about here. We like
kaiju is destruction.
Yes.
Right.
It's destruction, and which is funny because the Mothra larvae does quite a bit of damage on her own, as I'm sure people who have seen the movie will remember. I got a little Tokyo Tower.
She's not trying to destroy, though, right? She's just trying to get from point A to point B. So
she's just trying to find the twins. Like, I mean, yeah,
that's true. Have you ever gotten a moth in your ear? Holy shit.
No.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Do I have a bunch on me? Oh shit. Well, it's a complicated subject because, as I've said also many times before, America does not have a monster culture. Monsters in American culture, kind of at the bedrock level, are obstacles to be destroyed, obstacles to be conquered. I mean, obviously, you have your slightly more nuanced Western monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein and Wolfie Man, and then you get to King Kong, which is sort of the bridge point where it's like, oh, this is a inhuman monster, but it's just human enough to where we can understand and have pathos for this character.
Was American? There wasn't any Japanese influence. Like, it wasn't a Japanese character. It was a full-on American character.
Yeah, King Kong was created in 1933 by this whole cadre of American filmmakers and artists. It was not Kong is in a lot of ways a wholly American creation. But Kong was so radically different than anything else anybody had seen up to that point, it changed cinema. Like, without King Kong, we would not have Godzilla. So yeah. But like I was saying, like the point of Mothra is not chaos and destruction. The chaos and destruction is just a result of her existence, of her existing, and you're not even so much incurring her wrath as you are in between her and the balance she's trying to restore, which is getting her getting the twins back. But yeah, I mean that's the broad strokes, but I mean if we want to talk about the movie specifically, we could do that too.
What?
Well, I thought
adjust my camera slightly.
It's this movie was quite different than the first kaiju movie that we watched.
Yeah,
that,
GMK.
Like, nobody, no monsters surface just to fuck shit up. The monster surface specifically, there was a specific goal in mind, and it links back to that pacifist thing that you were talking about earlier. Is that Mothra didn't want to kill anybody, didn't want to hurt anybody. She just wanted to help the twins that prayed to her. So
yeah,
which what year was the movie made again?
1961.
Okay, yeah. So like when you put it in that, obviously we were laughing at the cheesiness of the special effects, but like for that, it was probably really good. I mean, maybe not American Hollywood good, but I'd have to do some comparing and actual paying attention to that kind of stuff to find out. But it was like obviously you were able to suspend disbelief and enjoy the story of the movie for the most part.
Well, yeah. The thing about the effects at the time that a lot of people don't really know in retrospect was that there wasn't, like, no one else was really making this stuff at the time, not on the scale that Toho was doing. Because you occasionally would get something by Ray Harryhausen, and you would get like a Earth versus the Flying Saucers or 20 Million Miles to Earth. And Harryhausen, for those who don't know, was this master of stop motion animation. And so his effects were always like really elaborate. And so as a result, it would have this slight more sense of, it had this sense that it was like higher technology, like more high tech. But the thing was, outside of Harryhausen, all the other monster movies and like weird sci-fi movies being made, for the most part, didn't look anywhere near as good as the stuff Toho was doing. Like you're imagine, okay, like let's look at our modern filmmaking landscape. Let's say that like you had one Marvel movie a year, and that's your only high quality American sci-fi action movie. And then you have Japanese movies coming out like 3 or 4 times a year that are like a fifth of the budget. And then everything else is just Sharknado. Like imagine that was the ratio. Like the Japanese were like, it says a lot about how we remember stuff culturally, that the Japanese stuff is remembered as this by a lot of people as this kind of cheap jack garbage made by a bunch of hacks, when at the time they were making some of the best stuff and some of the only stuff.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's lots of other stuff out there, but like, you know, it's I'm also painting this in really broad strokes. Anyway, I have a lot to say on the subject.
Well, that's why we would only ever have you on to talk about kaiju, because you have lots to say. You have to be like, if I know an expert about kaiju, it's you.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say though that there are some folks out there who I will defer to on their level of knowledge. Like, I actually made sure to grab my copy of Ishiro Honda's biography. He's the director of Mothra and Godzilla, and written by Steve Reifel and Ed Godzucheski. That's his actual name. and this is like required reading if you really, really want to know more about this genre and especially about the people who made it. It has a foreword by Martin Scorsese, of all things. So,
oh wow,
yeah. Well, as I understand it, Scorsese and Honda both were instrumental in getting Kurosawa's career going again in the 80s. Because, for those who don't know, Akira Kurosawa is like the most celebrated director in Japanese history, like the most celebrated director in Japanese cinematic history, especially outside of Japan. And his frequent collaborator and co-director was Ishiro Honda, who worked on all these kaiju movies. And it's just so funny because, again, a lot of Western critics will hold up Kurosawa. Thank you, Red Star Father, for grabbing behind the kaiju curtain. Norman will be very happy to hear that.
Yeah,
Norman,
Matt tore through that book in, I don't know, maybe a week, if that, in the very little short times he had not working.
It's so good. It's so good. Norman's one of those other people who's like, his knowledge far exceeds mine. But yeah, but of course, like I was saying, Western filmmakers would often, Western critics would often like hold up Kurosawa's work, like Seven Samurai and Ikaru and High and Low, as like almost like the only reputable Japanese cinema, and then they would poo-poo all the stuff that Honda and these other directors were making, which is funny because Kurosawa himself, he liked to use a lot of the same actors that Honda would use. And when he would come knocking, once or twice he would come knocking to some of the other actors and be like, "Hey, I want you for this movie." And the actor would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm committed to Honda's new movie." And Kurosawa would say, "Oh, well, if it's Honda, it must be good." So, like, give it up for Honda. Like, the dude the assignment was understood. Like, but I'm really curious to know what you guys think of the movie, because we didn't get a chance to really talk about it last night, because we all got together through our video chat after much finagling and wringing of hands, but we got it working, and we all had a good time watching it at the same time, and y'all's reactions were really fun. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think of the movie.
I enjoyed it. It was like I said before, it was a totally different feel from the first one that we watched, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's campy, and I mean, I love bad good movies, like the ones so bad they're good. I love those. So like, you were always going to have me on board with this one. I mean, this is exactly the kind of stuff but it doesn't take itself seriously either, which we had talked about that, like the movies that are campy on purpose versus the ones that are trying to be serious but end up being campy. And so this one, like, very obviously did not take itself too seriously, and there was a lot of really like genuine funny moments, as opposed to moments that they didn't mean to be funny. The hero, I guess, if there is one, Zen, right? Zen.
Oh yeah, Zen-chan, Frankie Sakai.
Yeah. Oh my God. Fucking.
He's
the guy, the facial expressions this guy could pull. Holy shit. Ridiculous. And and the body, the bodily comedy, the physical comedy was also very good. So how about you, Lori? What did you think?
Yeah, I really liked it, and the humor was a little different than GMK, I thought too. It was more like Zen and the people around him, rather than like we're laughing at like the kid in the building that's getting destroyed.
Yeah, GMK is definitely.
I didn't laugh at that part.
In GMK, when the Godzilla's tail takes out the building.
Yes.
That's definitely a dark comedy moment.
Yeah.
Because GMK is like a dark comedy, whereas Mothra is sort of like an Audrey Hepburn comedy, where it's like we're yucking it up because we all kind of have this vaudeville style swagger we're putting on everything.
Right. Yeah. And I really like the Shobijin. I like the little fairies. I thought they were adorable and they do an amazing job. Their singing is awesome.
Different names, the different English names for them. I still like the tiny ladies, the tiny the miniature
small
beauties,
beauties.
Tiny beauty, yeah, small beauties.
Yeah. Why so many? Just pick one and stick with
Yeah.
it. Come on.
I really like the design on Mothra. I kind of like the Mothra design in this movie better than I did in GMK. Like I liked her wings and I liked how she looked, and it was so cool.
Which is which, Matt?
This is the GMK Mothra. She has more purple in her wings, and she's more wasp shaped. She more has like a hornet or a yellow jacket vibe, whereas the classic Mothra is more. She's got bigger wings and she's more elegant, and fluffier and softer, but more like her wings are much more graceful.
And the wing action was really smooth too. It was Laura, you mentioned that, I think while we were watching it, you mentioned that the wing action was very smooth and realistic, which was that's some of those little touches that help you stay in the moment,
especially for the time.
Oh yeah.
Was that it, Lori?
Yeah.
What else are you gonna
add? I have more to talk about later politically because, as usual, I went into a rabbit hole. I messaged Matt this morning. I was like, "Well, I've been doing some reading because there's so much politically involved. Like when these movies are made, and it's deliberate. Like it's incredible. So I went in a rabbit hole with that again.
Paul made a comment about the political implications of it as well in the comments there. So
went down the same rabbit hole earlier in looking for stuff because I usually don't like. Matt has been giving me a kaijucation, and I seem to like the really serious movies, but I also like the ones like this that know they're silly and don't try to take themselves seriously. That's okay, but the ones that are in between, it's campy, but they're not trying to be. I don't like, but it was a great balance of having real themes, real hardcore shit to talk about, but wrap it up with all this comedy so it doesn't hit too hard. But if I could politically align myself with a kaiju, it would be Mothra, like 100%, because it's talking about all of the themes in it, like unregulated capitalism and business and raping of the environment and all of those things, all the hippie type things. It spoke to me, and I like that so much, in the way that they did it and made the viewer feel guilty, for what this horrible capitalist motherfucker was doing, disturbing this island and environment for profit. That was the only reason. It wasn't for education. It wasn't for science. 100% for profit and no other reason. Just that horrible greed. And how many times did I mention I wanted to hit that motherfucker in the movie because he was just such a horrible person.
The actor made it so easy. The actor did such a great job and made it so easy to hate that guy. It was so good.
So that actor,
Kai Wynn.
Oh yeah, he is a little bit like Kai Wynn in DS9. That actor is Jerry Ito, who is credited hilariously in the international version as Jelly Ito. Like, come on, guys.
Oh, nice. And you said he's American too, right? You said he's.
He has a fascinating. His history. His story is fascinating. If you could track down the American DVD, American Blu-ray cut that has the commentary on it, which I believe is a commentary by the same guys who did the book on the director. If you can track down that commentary, it goes into great detail about Jerry Ito's life, because he was an actor who had been trained. He performed on Broadway for a while in America, but before that, he is. I think he is Japanese American. Like his father was Japanese, but when the war broke out, his dad was like I got to get out of here because they're going to put me and you, like, and the rest of my family in like an internment camp. So I got to go. So he went back to Japan, and so his son Jerry, for a long time, had no idea if his father was even alive. So he went into acting, and like was actually, I'm trying to remember the timeline. Again, the commentary does a really good job of laying all this out. But eventually, he himself joins the military so he can go to Japan and go into the city to look for go into Tokyo to look for his father. And eventually, he found his dad and his whole extended family that he didn't know. And it turns out they're all in show business. They're all actors, and they're all like, and it was this whole tearful reunion. And he really got more into acting after that, and eventually landed this role as in Mothra.
Wait, this was his first like big role?
I think he had done a couple other things before that, but this is definitely the film he's like best known for. But what's even funnier is apparently, so he plays this really oily, disgustingly evil character. Apparently, in real life, the sweetest guy. Like, every interview with him is like that he's just the nicest guy. And my favorite anecdote of his life, based on what I've heard, is his mother and sister back in America went to go see Mothra when it came out, because they were like, "Oh, the baby boy is in the movie." So they went to go see it, and then his mom wrote him a letter and said, "Jerry, it was so lovely to see your sweet face, but could you have played a nicer man?" It's so good. So, yeah.
That's such a mom thing to say, too, isn't it? It's like, I love that you're so good at this, but why did you have to be a bad guy?
So many of, like, the coolest, nicest actors play villains really well.
Yeah. There must be some kind of psychology to that we need to look into. I mean,
sounds like a casting show.
Well, they probably get a lot of the demons out, like.
Well, that's what I thought.
Oh yes,
Jelly
yes,
Ito.
G. Please do that. The Jelly Ito.
I thought about that too, like how I'm sitting here as somebody who generally only ever wants to do things that help people. Like, I don't ever want to do something that's going to hurt somebody, and I think about other people before I make decisions and stuff. So I can imagine that it would be really cathartic almost to play a bad person.
That was the exact word that popped into my head. Yeah,
horrible as I possibly can be, and pour all of that in. Like, all the anger that I have against people who are truly like that, I guess.
I guess that's why a lot of us nerds play D&D and really get into it and play bad characters, because we're not.
Oh yeah. If you looked at the characters that I've made in the various Elder Scrolls games, you would not think that I was a good person based on what they do. Cool.
Amazing. Yeah, I just think that because I'm thinking about how. Sorry, I'm thinking about how. What's his name? Guy who plays Captain America. What's the actor's name?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. Yeah. Like, apparently Chris Evans is like this super cool guy, and he's like, I mean, when Trump was in office, he made a point to be like, "Yo, fuck this guy. Captain America don't truck with this," and which is of course in the tradition of Jack Kirby and the other Marvel artists who created Captain America, who are like, "We're socking Hitler in the jaw here, guys." But he, if you see some of his other movies where he's not Captain America, he plays villains amazingly well. I don't want to give any spoilers, because there's one in particular I'm thinking of that's like my favorite of his roles. But there is he's one of the evil ex-boyfriends in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I was just gonna say that.
He plays a douche so well.
He's in another movie that's like from that time period too, isn't he? And he's like a D-bag in that one too.
He played Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movies, and he's like, he does that like shithead jock kid really well. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, I think the cast in this movie is fantastic. Frankie Sakai, like we talked about, the lead actor is just he's so like roly-poly. He's a great physical comedian. Apparently he was like really popular in a bunch of comedies over there that have just never been brought over here. And
we have a very, very unique look. Like it's, the population kind of is all really similar, and he has a really unique face. And like I mentioned, very little forehead, a teeny tiny forehead.
Tiny forehead
line is a lot lower than what is average.
Yeah,
Well,
And it's fluffy.
Well, I think that's what happens when you're like when you have a very unique face. And you just kind of you find like, oh, I get a good reaction out of people when I do wacky stuff, and the cream rises to the top, so to speak, where you're just like, this guy has all of the elements of being just a dynamite comedy actor. I do have to give special mention to Kyoko Kagawa, who played his photographer. She was the other like primary female lead. And it's like, she's good in the movie, but it's unfortunate because, yeah, there she is. Thank you for bringing up screenshots. It's unfortunate that
pat you on the head.
It's unfortunate that she is doesn't really get a chance to really stretch her wings in this movie, because apparently she's an amazing actress and like was critically lauded for her performances. And I believe this is the only like kaiju movie she did, though. And like I said, it's just a shame she doesn't get to like really flex her acting muscles. But she's good in the movie. I like that moment when she's lighting the cigarette for Zenchan, and it's actually the hidden camera. It's a good moment. It's a good little moment.
Well, we were talking about themes in the movie. There are so many good ones.
Yeah, I definitely want to tee up Lori, because she and I were talking a little bit about some of the political stuff that was going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, the movie is really kind of clearly about like, okay, so I got to back up a little bit. So, again, buy this book about Ashura Honda. Honda-san is one of the things that people often talk about when they talk about his directing style. Is he liked to embody in his films themes of not so much good versus evil, but morality, like core moralities about pacifism and helping people and not being a total shithead, because he had a lot of really traumatic experiences during the war. And it turned him into a pacifist. There's a chapter in here I really want to read, and it is a bit of a can of worms. But there's a chapter in here I really want to read where he apparently was briefly in charge of one of the comfort women houses during the war, and as I understand it, again, I've got to do a little more deep diving in here. But as I understand it, it was kind of one of those things where it's like I've been put in charge of this thing. It's real fucked up. I guess I got to do my best to kind of just keep everyone safe.
For those that don't know, Matt, explain what a comfort women house was.
They were houses of sex slaves for the Japanese military.
So these were not women that volunteered to do this.
But the long of the short of it is that he had a lot of really traumatic experiences. And he is, and you can see in his film work that he's trying to convey those experiences through a lens of pacifism, and he's very critical of capitalism. A lot of Godzilla movies are like, "Yo, these capitalists kind of ruined everything," but with Mothra specifically, there was some shit going on behind the scenes that kind of wound up getting kind of trimmed out of the movie or downplayed a little bit. And Lori, I want you to take it from here. Like, I want to hear about the stuff you read about.
You're putting me on the spot. Yeah. Okay, where do I start? So, like, after World War II, the U.S. occupied Japan,
Mhm.
which I'm sure you guys are aware of, and there was sort of a treaty that the U.S. forced on Japan. And the initial treaty was pretty shitty. It didn't have an end date, and there was lots of like weird controlling shit, and it authorized U.S. troops to do like all kinds of shit, and so on. And then in 1960, which is like basically when they're making this movie or right before,
Mhm.
they tried to update the treaty. And the idea was that the treaty would give Japan more control over their own shit. But the US would still be there and they would still be doing their thing, and Japan would still be allied with the US. And initially when I read this, I was like, what, this ratified treaty sounds better. But like Japan at this point is like, they don't want to be involved with anybody. Like they want to remain neutral, which I think is a big like what Mothra kind of represents, is like they want to be pacifist, and they don't really want to be allied with us just because they don't want to be allied with anybody. They don't want to go to war. You know, we were in this treaty, there was like a whole thing about, you know, remilitarizing them with even more of an army than they had before. And this upset a lot of people.
Because a lot of Japanese were not down with the war, especially post-war. They were like, "You guys fucked us." Like,
right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the same time, the U.S. has this whole panic about communism. They're like, well, if we don't stay in Japan and tell them what to do, they're all going to become communist. And communists are evil.
Yeah, they had a famine once.
Right, like,
I mean, there's more to it than that, but
Yeah.
right, and yeah, and so that like I dug deeper and deeper, and I was like, oh, okay. Like at first, it's like, oh, why do they want to be pacifist? Oh no, wait. Some of this makes more sense than it previously did, and like when this movie was being made, there were huge protests, like hundreds of thousands of people protesting. There's pictures you guys can look up of the Anpo protests, and people were getting killed. The government at the time was run by like a really far right guy, and he was pro the treaty but also crazy,
as you do,
like. And all of this kind of has, I feel like there's vibes of all of this inside of Mothra, like just kind of hinted at, and just kind of like, you can tell that the director and the writer are like, I guess, upset about all this, and they're not like directly attacking anyone or saying any of this, but they're kind of like, this is fucking upsetting, and we need Mothra to come in and and fix this.
I don't think it was subtle to me. Like I did the same research, and I came up with a slightly different thing of this movie is 100% because of that, because America forced this, as the term was, collective capitalism in Japan. They were trying to make it more like America. But what they didn't realize is Japan out-America'd America, because the work ethic of the Japanese, regardless if it is healthy or not, is much more than the Americans. And so so Japan did this huge jump in industry that no other country has done in that amount of time, but at the cost of bulldozing so much of their natural resources. Like there was so much open land and woods that were just plowed down to make room for factories and stuff. But what they didn't realize at the time, or maybe just didn't want it to be too public, was that of this, collective capitalism, a lot of the manufacturing was done by individuals, by companies who then got really rich and had all of this power. And to me, I feel like that is reflected directly in the movie of what is wrong with small individuals, not the fairies, like a small number of individuals having control, and having so much power and control over the resources, and how it fucks everybody.
That I mean, I'm just so like, I'm just over here just like, because I'm just so happy that you guys went down these rabbit holes, because a lot of these movies are in so many ways, and this is true for a lot of the history of film, in so many ways are a reflection of the socio-economic and political state of Japan at the time. I mean, I've often argued that you can watch the entire Godzilla series, and by extension, the whole Toho canon, and get a vibe for what's going on in Japan at the time. Like, and what's funny is, Lori brought up the protests and the protests and stuff. There were planned scenes for, like, there being these big student protests, like young people protesting Nelson using the fairies in his show. Like, that was supposed to be there were supposed to be whole sequences with that, and they cut it, I believe, because it was deemed a little too close to home. Like, they're like, some people got killed. That might be that might bring down the mood of our goofy giant moth movie. Although we sure did get a nice, good old-fashioned genocide earlier on in the movie. All the Japanese people pretending to be Polynesians got, mowed down. Oh, that was rough. That's also a whole other fucking thing.
Do we have any watchers that are not familiar with this movie? Do we need to do a little quick rundown of what happened?
Like what the plot is.
Yeah, just a quick smush it all together.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that we do at least have one. So, yeah.
I mean, I could do the quick.
But can you, though?
Okay. Time me.
Can we put like a 1-minute timer and see if he can do it?
Okay.
Oh shit, we need one of those. Oh, they'll go put that on the list of things. I'll use my phone. How's that?
There you go.
Sure. Okay.
Hang on. We're gonna time this shit. Okay.
Okay. The ADHD is well medicated enough for tonight, and it works.
All kinds of stuff.
Whoops. I fucked it up. There we go. Okay.
Ready?
1 minute. Ready? And go.
So a island is discovered in the South Pacific that was thought to have been irradiated by nuclear testing by a made-up company called Rolisica, which is supposed to be a combination of America and Russia, but it's just a stand-in for a large capitalist country that's exerting its will over other countries. Anyway, it is then discovered that, in fact, there is a population on this island and a pair of tiny twin, possibly supernatural fairies, quote unquote, that are then captured by an evil capitalist who puts them on display in Tokyo. What they don't know is that the fairies who were on display doing their little song and dance routine are actually psychically connected to a giant eldritch moth creature monster, then goes on a rampage through Japan to find the fairies. The fairies are then spirited from location to location as the main characters are trying to find them, but the villain keeps moving them from spot to spot. Eventually, Mothra cocoons itself, grows gigantic, grows into a giant moth from a caterpillar, and flies to the capital of Rolisica, and shenanigans ensue. Eventually, the fairies are given back to Mothra. Spoiler alert, the movie has a happy ending.
Hey, that was pretty good.
It's not bad. You did pretty good.
How long was that?
You went over by a couple seconds, yeah. Just a couple seconds. But,
well, all right. Start it again. No, start it again. Okay, so that's the movie.
So I wondered while we were watching it too if they used like this fictional Rolisica as a like, because in more modern movies they just say America. I'm pretty sure, like they just. But in that one, they were kind of trying to.
You're skirting around it.
Well,
they were skirting around it.
Period, the Cold, they were having basically their own Cold War with the U.S. and Russia, so
right
together like that.
So they didn't want to pick one or the other because that would be a bad look.
It serves a double purpose of, one, you don't really get in trouble. You don't get like Americans getting grumbly that they're kind of the bad guys in your kaiju movie. And on the other hand, you you get to kind of make a comment about how these two giant superpowers just get mashed into one, because that's kind of the way it feels. If you're Japan in the 1960s, yes, you are undergoing what is considered an economic miracle, but you're still the little guy. You kind of got your teeth kicked in World War II, and you don't really know where you sit in this new economic power dynamic, especially when you, because of your constitution, you cannot have nukes. And which is funny because they technically violate that treaty by bringing in the giant nuclear-powered death ray guns at the end of the movie to try to destroy Mothra. So,
forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good damn point.
Well, they actually say that in this book. I was reading the chapter on Mothra in this book, and I got to that point, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like an atomic heat ray gun, and that technically violates the Japanese constitution. But it's a crazy sci-fi laser gun, so I guess we'll give it a pass.
Enough.
But yeah, I'm just really glad that y'all like the movie so much. Can we talk about the Peanuts for like 4 hours?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, so the fairies, quote unquote, and the fairies is the reason why they're called the fairies in some English speaking media is, I believe, because the original there was actually an original story, like a magazine published like fiction, like a I guess like a short story or maybe like a novelette or something. I'm not sure of the specifics, but there was a story called The Golden Fairies and Mothra that was kind of like a Michael Crichton situation where they like commissioned this writer to write this story and then they made a movie based on that, I think. But the story is called The Golden Fairies and Mothra, and I think there were 4 fairies in the original story, and they shortened it. They cut it down to 2 because they were like, that's too many fairies. But twins, for some reason, are especially rare in Japan.
Oh.
Yeah, and Laura, you said that they were monozygotic?
Yes.
Yeah, they're like
Which
almost.
means they came from the same zygote.
Yeah, they were basically clones of each other.
Yes.
And Lori, also, what was the other factoid you found about them?
They're because they're monozygotic, like their timbre when they sing is like one person, so it sounds like one person with reverb, even though it's 2 people, which is really impressive.
Yeah, and that's something you can totally hear that in the movie itself. Like you don't have to go seek out any special clips. It's pretty cool.
Well, speaking of, after the movie, Matt brought up an old what was the show?
The Ed Sullivan Show.
The Ed Sullivan Show, where they came on as guests and they were singing an American song, and he got really tickled when they were both scatting together.
Yeah, and they totally did sound like it sounded like one very full-bodied voice woman.
Full-bodied woman.
I meant their voice was full, but like it sounded like a single person with a very full voice, rather than 2 people, because they do have very light soprano tones. They're not like Adele. They're not like belting it out from from their guts. They got a very fairy-ish is actually an apt term to describe their voices too, because it's very light and airy, and yeah. So
well, a couple of years back, I actually was given one of their albums for Christmas because the Peanuts were huge stars in Japan in the 60s, and they actually retired like at the height of their fame. Like they were like, we're out, and they just like bye. And they played these characters 3 times total. But so one of their albums did get released like on LP in America by Columbia Records, which I'm just like, man, if I could find that LP, that would be like a holy grail collector's item. But anyway, I listened to one of their albums on CD, and their music that they do, at least in this album, it's like, so there's a second song in the movie, because the first song they do is Mothra ya Mothra, which is a sort of a combination of Malaysian and Japanese, and it sort of gives it like this kind of foreign-y sounding pidgin Malay, I guess you could say. But then they do another song that's actually not in the American version. But in the Japanese version, they're wearing like traditional kimono yukatas, and they have the fans and everything. And that is more like the stuff that they would sing on these albums, and it's kind of haunting and very sad. It's very it's just kind of lives in your stomach, you know, like it's kind of makes you feel heavy. And yeah, but they were very young when they took this role. Oh, fun fact. ADHD fun fact. ADHD not fact. There was one of them, I believe Yumi, has a mole on.
I noticed.
Yes. And they both have moles drawn on their
but they don't
faces.
match.
Yeah, it's very subtle. Like, it's like if you didn't know to look for it, or if you weren't like if you didn't have it on Blu-ray, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. But that was so they could kind of make them look as similar as possible.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I saw one had a slightly larger than the other. I'm like, I bet you one of them had a mole, because that's not like a genetic thing as far as, you know, where mole placement is. I'm like, I bet you they just took like, you know, an eyebrow pencil or something like that and did the same thing on the other, so it was mirror image.
Yeah. That's what they did. They did it to keep their give them that air of mystique where you couldn't tell them apart. And what was funny was apparently the director Honda was concerned. One of the big concerns was, are they going to be able to speak in unison? And apparently that wasn't a problem, because they very naturally spoke in unison all the time, like, which is creepy, but also cool.
I feel like that's one of those twin things, isn't it? Like that they can if they want to. It's not that big of a deal for them.
Yeah. It's yeah, I just love I just love this kind of deep lore behind the scenes stuff, because again, so much of the genre is poo-pooed outside of Japan, and but to watch it, you're just like, there's so much talent on screen, like raw talent, but because it's not coming through an American lens, it has this like it kind of gets brushed aside, you know. Like, and I don't want to be the boy who cried racism, but you kind of get the vibe that there's a little bit of cultural prejudice going on. But yeah, I'm trying to think, like, because man, there's so much of this movie I want to talk about, but I don't know if anybody else had anything else they wanted to disseminate to the masses.
The raping of the natural world. That's my big takeaway from the movie. And it's so perfectly encapsulated in this because they use the fairies as a representation for the rape of the natural world. And everyone comes in droves to see them. They love it. They're entertained until the consequences come, which is Mothra. And it's not until there's death and destruction unintentionally. Like, Mothra's not going around killing people. It's just, she's this massive thing in our size world. But you go into nature and you take this thing, and although it makes you happy and brings you joy, the cost for you and everyone else is just so great. You're like, put it back, undo this damage that you did. And luckily in this movie, they were able to undo, a shit ton of more damage by giving the fairies back. But that's not true in the real world. When you bulldoze down a forest, minimum, it's going to take 100 years for that environment to even start healing itself. And the consequences we have of losing our environment aren't as in your face as a giant moth bulldozing through your cities to try to get back what was taken from her. It's way more subtle than that. If it was more obvious, it would be so much easier. That's my headband, actually. I had that at Renaissance Festival when I worked at Texas Renaissance Festival in 1999 and 2000. He was like, I need a headband. Mine didn't come in the mail. I'm like, I dug through my old memory boxes and found one for him. Called Garland.
I did buy the butterflies. I did buy the butterflies on Amazon. No, I love that. I love that perspective of Mothra representing the natural world, and the fairies by an extension of that. Like the fairies are kind of, we are the voice of Mothra for Mothra has no tongue. Like that's sort of like they're like the tiny little Loraxes, and because in a lot of the subsequent Mothra movies, whenever she shows up, those themes are like front and center. In the 1992 Godzilla versus Mothra, I think that movie's not. It's fun, like it's a fun movie. It's not like super. It's not as tight as it could be. Like I feel like they could have done a couple more passes in the script writing phase. But anyway, I do like the themes because Mothra and the Cosmos are what they call the little twins in that movie. They are like, look, we want to live in peace with humanity. We would love it if you guys would stop destroying the earth. But the complication is that there is the villain of that movie is this guy who owns this corporation that is just basically bulldozing the Fuji forest. Like he is just like, it's 90s capitalism. It's a 90s capitalism villain. And so the earth itself says, okay, Mothra's not going to do the job. I'm going to make a new Mothra. And its name is Batra. And it's not a bat really, but it's like if Mothra went Gothra.
Gothra.
Hold on, I've got Batra over here.
You are wearing something under that robe, aren't you?
Yeah, I got pants on.
I was wondering that too.
So this is Batra.
Yeah, definitely looks more violent.
Yeah.
Scarier version, definitely.
Yeah, and Batra is like, oh, I'm just gonna start annihilating human cities. Like you could go, you just fuck yourself. But then Godzilla shows up, and Godzilla, which is how yes, Ray, it is like a moth, but with dragon scales instead of fuzz. And then Godzilla shows up, and Godzilla is the chaotic neutral element. Godzilla is anti-life. It is a radioactive monster that will just destroy, that doesn't care what it destroys. So then Mothra and Batra have to team up to fight Godzilla. And there's some human shit going on, it doesn't matter.
But with Mothra, unlike a lot of the other kaiju, like take Godzilla for instance, the damage that Godzilla does is very like pinpoint, like with his atomic breath. Whereas Mothra, she flaps her wings and causes hurricane force winds, just destroy everything in the area. Like she can't be precise in that particular move anyway on what gets damaged. It's just, all right, well, that's what's going to happen. Everything's going down. And in later ones that she has, there's something to do with her wings or was that something you invented? What she has another power. What was it?
I thought she had beams.
You made up, Matt.
You did a redesign of Mothra, and I can't remember which is what you did and which is canon.
So Mothra does start getting other powers in other movies. It's very slow at first. Like the only other power she gets in like the 60s is when she fights Godzilla for the first time. She releases these it's either poison powder or the scales from her wings. It's like the scales from her wings. Mm-hmm. And they act as either a poison or in much, much later movies, they can reflect Godzilla's atomic breath back at him.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. which is really in line with her character of like, she's not a physical fighter. She uses what she has and is just smarter. She fights a smarter battle, which is why she beats Godzilla every time they fight, even in like a roundabout way. Like even in GMK, when Godzilla blew her up, she's like, oh, I've been exploded. Okay, I'm just going to go give my power of flight to Ghidorah then. So, but the whole thing about Mothra, y'all mentioned something earlier, the whole thing about Mothra being like constantly getting killed, that's kind of a more recent thing.
The Sean Bean of the kaiju.
The Sean... I never heard that one yet.
I don't know if I made it up, but it literally just popped up in my head now. So
I'm sure someone
I'm
else
going to take credit for it.
Matt and I had a conversation a while ago about that, and I'm like, well, it's just reflective of what women are in our society. We give and give and give to help others until we die. That's just, what it is.
And I think that there's definitely a conversation to be had about that unconscious role that she plays, that they accidentally kind of I don't think they intentionally slid her into, but it is like a subconscious bit of sexism that goes on with Mothra. Because for the most part, in the original cycle of films, Mothra shows up a lot, but only dies like once. But it's implied that she goes through these life cycles, that there's an adult, then there's a baby, then there's an adult, then there's a baby. And it's really not until like the early 2000s era of Godzilla where she dies in all three of the movies she shows up in. And like, and that's because honestly they were running out of ideas. They didn't want to deviate too far from the formulas they had stuck to, and it kind of becomes tired. And now you have Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 movie, which has a really cool version of Mothra, but she does the same thing. She throws herself in front of Ghidorah, this time to save Godzilla. And I remember in the commentary track, the director, who is a Godzilla fan, I don't want to throw shade, but the director did say, like, well, in every movie Mothra's in, she sacrifices herself to save blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, not at all. Not even a little bit. Like, she has a whole trilogy of movies in the 90s, and you can't have a trilogy of movies with the same Mothra if she dies in every movie. Yeah. Although the first one, the adult Mothra does die protecting her baby, but then the baby like metamorphosizes into this dope ass rainbow Mothra.
So cool.
So is Mothra always the same Mothra? Like, is it the same, like, I guess, individual entity or whatever that just kind of goes through these cycles, or is it a new one every time?
Ray said at the time she died in 1964, she was already on death's doorstep due to age, but she doesn't go down without a fight. That is true, Ray. It's kind of a mix, like it's up to interpretation, because in the Mothra trilogy in the 90s, it's like this is a different Mothra, like this is a different individual, because in that movie, in Rebirth of Mothra, the adult Mothra and the baby Mothra team up to fight this other monster. And this monster, Death Ghidorah, as it's called, which is a fucking metal name. Death Ghidorah gets its power by burning forests. It is a deforestation monster. So the larva Mothra goes and finds this giant ancient tree after her mom dies, cocoons around it, the fairies sing a song, and the little music video, and then the this Mothra comes out, and although she had green wings at the time, because she's like green, to represent
the forest,
chlorophyll and all that, and she Mothra Leo is what they called her, and she had like lasers coming out of everything, like every orifice was shooting a laser, like it was awesome.
So with the Matt, with the natives on the island,
oh god,
I don't know if it's gone into in any other of the Mothra history, But what came first? Was like the natives worship this thing, and so this thing came to them, or did the natives find the egg and worship the egg? You know, which came first, the religion, or you know?
Okay, so I'll try and keep this one short. Near as people can figure, Mothra has always been around. It's implied that she was created or changed somehow by the nuclear testing in the Pacific, but she has been later kind of retconned to be like, no, she's like the guardian of the earth, like she's always been around, and the twins, the fairies. Eventually, it is implied that they are the last two surviving members of this ancient race of tiny people.
Oh, so they're from Earth. They're not aliens.
No, they're from Earth.
Okay.
Or at least it's implied they're from Earth. And they, in one of the movies, it's implied that their ancestors, their civilization, was the one that they, through advanced technology, almost destroyed the planet.
Ooh.
And Mothra kind of tried to teach them the error of their ways, and but it was kind of too late, and their civilization was destroyed anyway. Like, so Mothra kind of took the two fairies, the two remaining ones, under her wings.
Literally.
But it's all very ambiguous. It's all whoopity whoopity. And that's to say nothing of the anime trilogy that's on Netflix, where in the future there is this, like, after humankind goes extinct, there's an offshoot of humankind that has insectoid DNA that worships Mothra, and there are these two twins who are human-sized, but they're like the conduits to Mothra, and their hair have these little like moth antennae looking hair, and they're real, like, they're got like cool body paint. They got like dark skin and silver hair and like boss body paint and stuff. And one of them has the first sex scene in a Godzilla movie with the main character.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Let it not be said that Mothra is not a sex positive feminist.
Sarah, you haven't really talked much. What do you know, themes or whatever did you like in the movie?
I kept having a particular thing flash up in my head while we were talking, while we were going through it, and then by the time there's a break in the conversation, I forget. I'm just gonna go ahead and stay quiet about that until I remember again.
Okay.
You know, it's ADHD, but like the opposite of what Matt's got. Matt's got 1,000 thoughts, and I've got 0.
No thoughts, head empty.
I guess something that I wanted to add was the natives on the island doing brown face.
Yeah,
because we
gotta
didn't
talk
go into
about
that. I guess it kind of surprised me because I just assumed the U.S. was the only place that did that, but apparently not.
I feel like it's still ever so slightly less offensive than what America did. I don't know. They were brown facing another. At least it was the same continent, the culture, and they didn't steal the people. I don't know. It doesn't make it right. It's like I don't know.
It doesn't feel as cringy to you.
I mean, when a white person in America does blackface, like, you know, you're doing a bad thing. And like the African Americans that were brought over here to be slaves. They were stolen. Like, and I feel like the things that I mean, and I'm obviously, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So maybe if I was to actually research it, I would find out completely differently. But it just feels slightly less offensive to me.
It's right. I think context is what's important, because let's be clear about something. The Japanese military was not good to the Polynesians. Like, let's be clear about this. That being, and there has, you know, Japan is like any other culture, that has roots in warfare and colonialism. there are racist elements in Japanese culture. And no culture is a monolith, but when it comes to this is kind of going into Godzilla fan deep lore, but a couple of years ago in G-Fan magazine, sorry guys if you know what I'm talking about, but it is relevant. There was an article published in the magazine. It's this long-running fanzine, G-Fan magazine. It's been around for friggin' ever. It is actually was where I first was published in print. So, nothing but love there. But there was this article that showed up in this issue called, and the title of the article was, "When is Cancel Culture Coming for Godzilla?" Hang on. And the article feels like a preemptive strike. Like it feels like somebody it feels like the writer of the article. Yes, Sarah G, you know what I'm talking about. The writer of the article was basically saying like, well, here's a bunch of prefabbed excuses I have locked and loaded and ready to go for when this inevitably happens. And I'm sitting here thinking like, bro, cancel culture ain't coming for Godzilla. Like people, the kids on Twitter who are all about that are not watching Godzilla movies. But I think the article is, like I said, it's trying to make all of these like kind of almost borderline paranoid like statements about like, well, but it's actually this. It's one of those memes where it's like nobody, and then G-Fan. Well, if you think about it, it's actually this, and this, and it's like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Right.
I do think it is worthy of discussion because there's a lot of this isn't the only time they did this. Like, there's a couple of Godzilla movies from this era, a couple of kaiju movies from this era, where they were doing these Polynesian coded characters, and it's like on the one hand, there is a history of imperialist colonialism in Japanese history, and they don't tend to treat non-Japanese populations super well. On the other hand, you'll notice that in these movies, the natives are always on the moral high ground. Like in almost all of these kaiju movies, whenever these natives are involved, especially the Infant Island natives, they are right. Like they are in the right, or they have the moral high ground. In Mothra versus Godzilla, which is the one that takes place after this movie, the main characters go back to Infant Island and they try to basically to ask Mothra for help. The natives all pretty much, and even the fairies, even the twins, they even say like, nah, you guys all kind of suck. And they even say like the natives even say, you people unleash the fire of the gods on our land. And I'm sitting here thinking like, these are Japanese characters being told by these natives like, you are culpable for the nukes. And on the one hand, it's like, oh, geez, well, we're Japanese. We were the ones who got nuked. But then the point the movie is trying to make is it doesn't matter. You're part of this worldly brotherhood, this worldly family. You are just as culpable. Like, we don't see the difference. And I just think it's a really interesting perspective. And yet it's the line being delivered by a Japanese guy in brown face. So, and on the other hand, it's like, the cost and time required in getting 100 Polynesians who can also dance and do choreographed dance routines and stuff, that would have been prohibitively difficult and expensive to get at the time, as opposed to in America where it's like, you guys we got a lot of like black actors you guys can use. You don't have to, right? You don't have to do the other thing. So
and it was in the 60s too, so it might have been like it was probably hard to hire them. Like even if you have the money and you could find them, there's still like tension and stuff. Like it could be
The first Godzilla movie, the only reason the first Godzilla movie was created was because the Toho was working on a war movie set in Indonesia, and they were kind of hoping, I think, as I understand it, they were hoping it would kind of be like a healing movie, like, you know, hey, we're coming to Indonesia and we're gonna make a movie and we want you guys to help us out. And at the 11th hour, the Indonesian government pulled all their work visas because they were like, nobody wants you here, bro. Like, and so Tomiyuki Tanaka, the producer on Gestures and Everything, he was on his way back to Japan thinking like, shit, I gotta find a movie to fill this time slot. And that's why they did Godzilla. They were like, let's make a monster movie. It's just, so yeah, there is still a lot of like, I mean, even giant international productions like Tora was, which was one of the first big Japanese American co-productions about the bombing of Pearl Harbor. That movie was like really heavily resisted because they didn't like, a lot of audiences didn't like seeing the Japanese side of things. So anyway, I've been talking for a while. If you guys want to talk,
was there anything else you wanted to add about the brown face thing since you brought it up?
No, I actually had, I mean, I think Matt answered all the questions I had because like I was curious why, but it makes sense. Like, yeah, with everything that was going on, it's a crazy time. So.
I will freely admit, in the interest of full disclosure, that I am a little bit. I can feel the defensiveness bubbling up in the back of my head because I'm like, no. I feel like Randy in that episode of South Park when he's trying to get the Whole Foods. He's like, yes, this is where the president is from South Park. No. Like, and so as a result, I'm like, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying there's context.
There's a context. They're not intentionally ignoring Polynesian people, and they're not like, fuck you, brown people. Like, we're going to be brown. Like, it's not that vibe. It's not.
It's not.
It was kind of a necessity.
Yeah. It doesn't make it okay, but it's a little bit more understandable given the circumstances and the time and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's some of that stuff was stuff I definitely did not know. So it does add a little more context to it. I mean, it again, and it was very lazy brown face too. Like it was
not great.
It was very bad. It was all the same. Every single one they used the same color of body paint on them, and it was very streaky and smeary. Like they didn't even do a good job.
And the face was like a different color than the chest, and so it was really it was bad.
In people of any skin color, there are differences in the tones and the undertones, and like I mean, look at just the four of us white people here. Like we are all different tones. I'm and I'm like, so they use the same color of brown to paint all of these actors, and it's like,
and in fairness,
it's like, and come on, guys,
you've got a movie to make in like 6 months. It's like they probably went by. I'm like, all right, everybody, close your eyes.
Right.
And the spray tan booth.
Yeah, and in what was it, Godzilla, in Mothra versus Godzilla, the natives do come back, and there's a little bit of brown face going on, but a lot of it is they actually like gave them like really elaborate face paint, and like they're these like warriors or scouts or something, and they are red head to toe, like red skin, red clothes, like, and it's very striking visually. So I like that they kind of expanded the cultural signifier.
Color palette.
What's that?
Expanded the cultural color palette.
Sure. And then in the movie Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, one of the infant island natives is like a main character. And she's awesome. She's played by Kumi Mizuno, who's also Miss Namikawa, one of my favorite Godzilla characters. Still brown face, but like she's a character and like has like an arc, and like she's kind of a badass because she's she pulls a knife on the main characters when she first meets them because she's like, oh my god, I'm so fucking sick of these mainlanders. Yeah, that movie's a lot of fun. That one should be on the docket. But anyway,
you know what we didn't talk about yet is that the terrible, like after Nelson, the bad guy, steals the tiny ladies. He treats them so horribly, and then continue, like he insists to everyone who tries to help them that they are very happy. And then we see them in the backstage area, and they're in this tiny fucking cage. And we had like a conversation about it while we were watching. About, you know, there wasn't a toilet, there was only one bed for two girls, and there was no privacy, there was no curtains of any sort. So yeah, like and then you know we find out they tell us at some point in the movie that they can communicate with telepathy. And so that means that Nelson just didn't care how they felt. They had the ability to tell him that. And he actually made a point at some point. He said they're not people, right? He said they're not people.
They're merchandise.
Yep.
Yes. And he said he didn't care, and they can't communicate, they can't understand you. You can't talk to them because they can't understand you, when in fact they totally could. And they tell the people that are trying to help them that they're unhappy. We know. We didn't need the bad guy to be so greasy and scummy for us to know that they were unhappy.
Well, it was kind of surprising that, you know, these fairies, who in all likelihood have not had any contact with anybody other than the natives, could tell that, okay, of course they didn't know they were in Japan, but that all of the people in Japan, not all of them were bad, that our main characters and the little boy, that they understood that they're here to help us. You know, they're not with the other guy. They're not all thinking the same thing and all evil. It's just the one guy. And he obviously has a lot of power, where they could have just snatched him right then. And I was kind of wondering why that hadn't happened in the movie. They seemed like, you know, there's multiple times where I feel like that they could have saved the fairies and prevented a lot of this, but then again, you wouldn't have had the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you got to bend over backwards sometimes to make your plot happen, and it's just a question of whether or not your audience can tell. I mean, I always interpreted it as like, yeah, they'll get the fairies, but then they've got to fight their way out. And I think there was a line, I can't remember if it was in the original script or if it was in the movie. I think it was in the original script that they tried to petition the Japanese government to get the fairies away from Nelson, but because they weren't technically human, like civil rights didn't apply to them. Like, and because Nelson had claimed them as property, like an animal, basically,
or a woman,
or a woman. We all know how Nelson would have voted. But yeah, I appreciate, like, I really like watching these movies with you guys in particular, because y'all have these perspectives that I'm just like, you know, I think I thought about that, but I hadn't really thought about it. So I'm really grateful for that. I did want to talk about the alternate ending.
Oh yeah,
because a little bit of a spoiler for those of you who haven't seen the original Mothra, but the ending is, well, specifically the way that Nelson gets his. It's
that was what I wanted to ask you about. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Perfect.
Carry on.
No. I'm glad you said something. And I just wanted to say, I also really appreciate you guys letting me ramble for as much as I am, because, you know, I'm trying to have the conversation, but I'm also trying to educate. Just like, so in the movie, again, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but the way Nelson gets his is not super satisfying. Like, it's kind of, he just like kind of gets gunned down, and oh well, like he gets gunned down by like random cops in Newkirk City. And I remembered Caston asked me, where'd they get all these white people? And I was like, they went to Yokota Air Base, which is a big American military base right next to Tokyo, and that's where they filmed a lot of the finale. Like Yokota Air Base, they actually there's a great story in the commentary track about the Peanuts being taken to the base and to basically to drum up people, the volunteers, come out and be like, you want to be an extra in a movie? And most of the time when they were getting white people for kaiju movies, they were getting them out of hotel lobbies. And I mean, some of them were professional actors, like they were like acting on the side. So the way it shook out, according to Mr. Rightful and Mr. Godzuchewski. Wait, hold on.
Sexy.
Okay. So Columbia Pictures were the ones who were distributing this movie in America. They were, I believe, putting up a fair amount of the money for it as well. Shortly thereafter, they had pinned the deal. A disagreement emerged over the movie's final act. Toho had deemed the special effects for Mothra's attack on New Kirk City too expensive. So Honda and Sekizawa, who was a screenwriter, wrote a new, more cost-conscious ending. The revised version had Nelson fleeing into the mountains with his hostages, specifically the fairies and the little boy. Like when they tied up the little boy, they were supposed to take him with them.
Instead of pile folding chairs up on him.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That was so weird.
Very weird.
Just the lip.
So he had gone with his hostages aboard a Cessna, and Mothra was giving chase. In the final showdown, Mothra's wing-flapping gusts caused the villain to fall into a volcano, and the fairies are saved.
What?
Which is an amazing ending, but
it would have been so much better than the way he died. Oh, I mean, at least he got his in the end, but
there was clearly like this push and pull behind the scenes because they wanted this big explosive finale in New Kirk City. But let's see, because the contract with Columbia stipulated that the climax would take place in an American-looking city, Toho sent a letter requesting the approval of the script change from the U.S. side. So originally, it actually was supposed to be this big battle in New Kirk City, with Nelson kind of just dying because he got shot at. But rather than wait for a reply and risk delaying the start of production, Toho instructed Honda to commence principal photography as planned. The revised ending was first on the schedule, and they actually did go out and shoot the footage. Although, this is good. Things went smoothly, though a careless mistake caused some embarrassment. A dummy was used in the filming of Nelson's deadly plunge, but it was left at the bottom of a ravine. A hiker spotted the body, and authorities, believing it to be a suicide, sent a team down to retrieve it. Honda and his team were roundly scolded.
Yeah.
They got, even though the scene was filmed, they got a no answer from Columbia and had to shoot the original ending. So we were robbed of a more satisfying ending, but the trade-off was this giant explosive battle in New Kirk City, which is fun, but again, it doesn't have that emotional punch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
It's a pretty unsatisfying ending for the bad guy. You want him and I like the only thing that would have been better than getting to see Mothra kill him would be getting to see the fairies actually do it, which I feel like they're way too benevolent, but they were the ones who he deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna love later Mothra movies because the fairies get so much more agency. Like they're like formulating plans to like stop bad guys from like shooting people and stuff. And then in like the trilogy, they get their own little Mothra steed to fly around on, and she shoots lasers, and then they get swords and they like have sword duels with like that little evil fairy and stuff. It's like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. There's some good shit
I'm on
in
board for
the
that.
later
I'm
movies.
definitely on board for that.
This is just going to become Matt's Mothra Monday.
It works. Let me find it. I was thinking it was Radstar Father asked about the future movies that we're going to talk about. Yeah, there it is.
I got one up and ready to go.
All right.
Yeah, and the answer to that is that we talked about yesterday was just like I guess I don't know about Lori, but my personal feelings is like I'm just on board. You just tell me what movie I gotta watch and let's watch it.
This is one that we had discussed earlier.
It's hard to see, but
Yeah.
so I actually believe because I sent Lori and Eric a bunch of kaiju movies, and I think that's one of the movies that's in the box I sent them. So that's a possibility. That's a possibility. Radstar Father is on the right track because I want to go like a little more obscure because we did like a Godzilla movie and then we did the Mothra movie, and now I'm like, let's get crazy, let's get nuts, let's put on a purple suit and tux and bat dance. And just like, so I mean, if y'all want to leave some comments for some options, like, you know, How From Beyond the Fog is certainly on the table.
That's a weird one, but it's so good.
Daimajin, which has a beautiful Blu-ray box set release from Arrow, if I do say so myself.
I wonder who did the art.
I wonder, some dickhead from Texas. You know, there's a lot of there's just, that's the thing, is that there's so goddamn many in this genre. If we get around to doing the Gamera movies, I'm going to insist that we do like 3 in a row because the trilogy from the 90s functions best as a trilogy. Because you're going to watch the first one, you're going to be like, oh, that was really good, but it's not the best stuff that story has to offer. So anyway, but there's lots of, so if y'all want to shout out in the comments of like this one.
Yeah, if you think you can stump Matt with a movie that he's never heard of.
Skeptical.
There are definitely ones that I have not seen, like in their entirety, or haven't seen in a long time. So there could be some weird ones where I'll just be like, I feel like I'm watching this for the first time. So
has anybody been keeping track about how many times I've had to pitch that cat because he's tables on the
cat counter?
I know that at least I'm pretty sure that Paul made a comment that he noticed, and I know that Asayan noticed and made a point about it. There he goes again.
Getting into trouble.
Here's the problem: is that
it looks like he's on a conveyor belt.
Yep.
I feed him at like 9 o'clock my time every night,
right.
And
so we're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah, we start the show at like 7, which would be fine, except that he thinks that 5 o'clock he should start annoying me. So that it doesn't matter that it's 9. He's going to start annoying the crap out of me 4 to 5 hours early.
Same here. Like every time my camera would shake is because a cat is rubbing on the table trying to get my attention to feed them.
Yeah.
And like he's just being lazy because I've been giving him mushy food because you can kind of see he's a very skinny cat and we were trying to fatten him up. It didn't work, but we still give him some mushy food anyway because otherwise he's annoying. But there's crunchy food everywhere. There's biscuit.
I don't want that food. I want the wet food.
Exactly.
I want that wet food.
So do we have any other like closing thoughts that you wanted to add about it? Did we cover everything?
We covered a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like I would need to watch it again, probably a couple times, and we could get into some more deeper conversations about it. But for this one,
I'm surprised and pleased that and it's not an intentional thing, but like I keep going into rabbit holes about Japanese politics and they're super interesting to me because we're not really taught that shit
Mhm.
in Canada or in the US. We're not taught anything
We're
about
not
their
even taught our own
history.
history in the US.
Yeah, and you're right. In the US, it's so learning about the war and the effect it had and all of that, it's like a completely unintended side effect of watching these movies, and I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I did not do that so much of the digging. I didn't do that so much for this one, but I did the last one. I definitely was digging around, and it's very interesting, and it's a time suck. Like, it's easy to get lost in your own little world while you're researching this stuff because it's so interesting.
I really want to try to go for quality over quantity with these videos with these streams, because the 65 Godzilla 65, right? Okay. I really because again, even the most ardent Godzilla fan and kaiju fan knows that a lot of the stuff kind of blurs together after a while, especially if you see a lot of it, which is why, again, I'm trying to expand, like, outside. Moving forward, I want to expand outside of, like, well, here's one of 5 Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla movies. You find out which one it is. Which is not to say those movies are bad. There's just, at a certain point, while you have really talented people behind the scenes, Toho as a company, they are a company, and they're pumping these movies out once a year. And in the case of the 60s, they were doing multiple kaiju movies every year. And like, so as a result, some stuff's going to fall through the cracks, and you're going to get a movie that has the potential to be really good, but it's just kind of, so, and if you're not like a diehard like me, like, I will play that PS4 Godzilla game that came out like 6 years ago. I will play that game, that slow ass frame rate garbage game where you're just kind of like, and I'll play that for 5 hours. But I'm trying to curate this list. But yeah, Cassian, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think we touched all. Oh, there was one little thing with the heat ray gun, that it could also be symbolic of, the U.S. taking care of Japan and giving them, allowing them to have weapons that were not very effective at all against Mothra.
We've got this fancy new shit. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, well. That's the idea, is that that Honda, I think in an American monster movie, those special heat ray cannons would have done the job. Like, that would have been how it would have ended. But because kaiju movies they run so much on themes, it doesn't make thematic sense to just shoot the monster with a gun. Like, that's one of the problems with Godzilla 98. They just gun him down on a bridge. And or when, as opposed to something like Shin Godzilla, where there's this confluence of themes happening, which Shin Godzilla is going to be on the list. Like, we're going to get to that one. That's the one directed by the guy who made Evangelion. So, all right. So, I guess that's it.
Well, I actually have one more thing, because, okay, so you remember last time when we had a very big discussion, like a mini discussion within the discussion about Mothra and how she takes care of stuff, and we talked about that a little bit this time too. But then I don't even remember who the hell it was said Mothra died for your sins, and we were like, oh, that'd be a good T-shirt. And with the help of one Miss Katie Rooston,
What?
Katie and I made.
Holy shit! Oh my god! But why is that not on me?
Right?
Oh my god!
I think you might like it, Katie.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I was like, because Katie's like, I'm not familiar with what Mothra looks like, and I was like, I think as long as you're close, Matt's gonna love it.
Well, I sorry.
I had started it on my own, and then I was like, I'm never gonna get this right without some help. It's gonna take me years. And so I messaged Katie. I was like, hey, you got some time? And oh my God, she killed it, didn't she? She did the colors.
Yeah.
I did the graphics around it. And she made that. And here, let me put it back up again. Yeah, so all the colors and stuff, that's all her. And
is that going to be on y'all's web store or something? Like, or can people get that?
Not yet.
Well, not yet, but like.
But yeah. Obviously, I want to put it up so that people can get it if they want it, because I'm pretty excited about how it turned out.
It goes to show what a goddamn giant nerd I am, that I know which version of Mothra that is. It is specifically the Tokyo SOS Mothra from 2003. And that is arguably the best Mothra put to screen, because it's everything the original Mothra was, from the wing flaps to the fuzziness, but with modern animatronics, like with the legs all moving and all the bits are wiggling and stuff. So that makes me really happy. It's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, we were trying to go for like a religious illustration, an old timey one. So that's what we were, and I hope that we appropriately got everything accurate, because we were having fun with it. And like I said, Katie killed the freaking the colors. I definitely could not have done that well without her. So
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great job, Katie and Sarah.
Great
that
job.
made Matt very happy.
Very happy.
Yes. And I guess I think probably needs because Katie just sent me the JPEG so that I could show you guys. So she'll send that when she's satisfied, she'll send that to me, and then we'll put it up, and I'll send you the link so that you can be the first to grab it, I guess. But then you can go ahead and post it, because I saw a bunch of people who said they want it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that they're all people that you drew in today. So, so that way we'll put it on ours, you put it on yours, and then everybody
can JPEG. Yeah, send me the JPEG. I want to like get a real good look at it.
Well, I screenshot it and send it to you, but yeah, they can get you a good one.
I'll send it to you when we're done here, because it's I got it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what a hell of a way to cap the episode. I was going to say one thing I did want to show off that I haven't gotten to talk about much. First of all, I didn't get to talk about my Byerly's bottle, which is the orange drink they kept having signs of in the movie.
Oh.
Like Mothra kept yeah. I found this in Japan, and the guy at the restaurant, my friend I was with asked I saw it in I knew the restaurant had it, and my friend I was with told the waiter, like, can you bring us the Byerly's, and can you leave us the bottle? And he's like, why? He's like, okay, I guess. And my friend is like, he's a gaijin, he wants to take it home. And then this here, which I have to thank Caston for helping me find a good jar to keep this in. So this is, if I can get a little closer to the screen, this is a piece of Mothra egg. This is from Godzilla Tokyo SOS. It was given to me by the Nishimuras, who run an awesome toy company called M1 in Japan, and they're so sweet. Every time I see them, they're always throwing stuff at me, and it's made out of fiberglass, so I absolutely cannot hold it with my bare hands. But, so, and they modeled the egg in that movie to look like the original egg, like with the blue and the spots and the yellow and everything. So I just wanted to give the Nishimuras a shout out, because they're awesome. And with Japan opening back up, hopefully we'll get to go back this year.
I know Jeffrey would love to go, and now that he's into kaiju stuff, I was like, maybe I'll just send him with Matt the next time he goes.
He'll be my pack mule.
I'm very interested in going myself as well, but yeah, like Jeff wants to go do all the weird stuff, and I'm like, I'm kind of a basic bitch. I want to go do all the touristy shit first.
No, that's all part of it. That's
hopefully we get to go. November 20th is the cross your fingers, for the big con there, if everything's opened up. Supposed to go last year, but
yeah, well, I'll cross my fingers for that because like even I mean, I get to live vicariously through you guys, and you send us pictures, and it'll be fun.
I will say, I'm going to say this right now. If Japan is like open by then, but like Tokyo Comic-Con gets canceled or whatever, we're still going.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm saying I'm gonna like put the word out and be like, hey, yo, all my Japanese peeps, you want me to come to Japan? Commissions. And I'm just gonna spend like a week doing like 900 commissions so I can afford to go.
Yes.
Get you a couple signing gigs and whatnot.
Sure.
So
yeah.
All
right.
I'm excited. So okay. Yeah, we should wrap it up before the cat starts trying to eat me.
Bless you, my children. We're all children of our resplendent lady.
Next week, UHS Presents, we're talking to Javon Stokes about his new Kickstarter. But tomorrow, make sure you tune in 5 p.m. Eastern to come hang out with us for the live stream launch party for the Art of Sanyak, which do we still have? I think we still have a picture up here for this, the cover or something. Oh, maybe not.
There will be, for people looking for commissions, there will be commission slots, and they're going to sell instantly. So if you want one,
good artist,
this will be a good time to book it.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Definitely do that. And yeah, and I think because we try and do a sticker for everybody for each time. I don't know if that one's been totally approved yet, but
where you can show that if you want.
Okay, so I do have something.
You guys can get a sneak.
So yeah, you can get if you come watch the show with us and comment and stuff, do all the stuff that Lori will tell you to do tomorrow, then you get bam.
Whoa!
What am I looking at?
Oh
my.
So this is a piece Stan did for Warcorns, which is a comic. And I just kind of love it because Stan Yak's work is typically very like horror based and violent and gritty. And he sent me all of his artwork, and this was in there, and I was like, we need to fucking do something with this thing.
Yeah, when I looked at it, I was like, wait,
I want to take that little umbrella to stick it in my hair.
Cassie, get a screenshot of this screen in particular.
Yeah.
Because this will be officially the weirdest moment on the live stream. I like it though; it's fun.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a thing. But you gotta come watch. You gotta comment. You gotta back at a physical level. You gotta comment. You gotta watch the stream. There's stuff you gotta do. So yeah, we're gonna make you jump through hoops. We don't give away that kind of cool, amazing balls kind of shit without making you jump through a couple hoops, but it's still pretty doable for you. So yeah, that's tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then next week, like I said, Javon Stokes talking about his new Kickstarter, and I think that's it. I think we're good. Told everybody everything we need to know for now.
Sure.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. If I could quickly plug some stuff, I just thought I should actually do my job, or do something job adjacent. I'm going to be doing, Cass and I both be at Kaiju 2, which is a sort of Kaiju art gallery, little mini event in San Antonio on May 28th. After a week after that, we're going to be in LA for Monster Palooza. Very excited about that. And I think there's something else going on okay, good. I sent Radstar Father a GMK Blu-ray as well. So
no, I sent Radstar Father.
You did. Well, I bought it. I also paid for the shipping. So, but yes, you did. Yes, anyone gets anything mailed to them from me in like the last 2 years, it was from Caston.
Stickers on it.
Well, with your blessing. Oh yeah, that was Jeffrey saw the box and he's like, "Look at the art on this box. Look at." I was like, "Yeah," and I got to cut through it now, so we got to open the box. I was like, "We can open it from the bottom, I guess." But I mean,
the stickers are removable, silly.
That's true, but I never. Well, I suppose that's true, but I haven't actually tried. So.
You're
But
getting
yes.
more kaiju boxes in the mail, so
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lastly, I mean, we've got a bunch of cons going on this year. Finally, going back doing cons again.
Shit.
That being
That
said,
reminded me that I have a con this weekend I should probably tell everybody about. And I was like, oh yeah, because we're doing that again now.
hell yeah. Let's last thing. Because it's so hard to keep track of all the goddamn bullshit I do, you can I love that in my little flower crown and my like hippie outfit, and I'm like, goddamn fucking bullshit that I always have to do. I have a Substack now. I'm working on the first post, but if you just want a comprehensive list of all the crap that I'm doing, subscribe to my Substack. It's mattzilla.substack.com. It's free to subscribe, and you get it directly to your email. I love that social media has become such a quagmire of horse shit that it's easier to just get a goddamn newsletter.
Yep.
Right.
But yes, so thank you very much.
I guess you can answer that question really quick too while we're here.
Oh, currently no. I'm not going to have time for Anime Matsuri this year. Although you should still, if you can go, Hiroshi Kanatani will be there. And also, if you're in Texas, come out to Killeen in early September because we got a new convention called Giganticon that I'm a part of. And our first guest was, what's his name? The guy from Starship Troopers, like the lead from Starship Troopers, like our first guest. So I'm very excited about that. And Hiroshi will be there too. So, yeah. So the thing and the thing and the other thing.
Come see the things.
And the convention that I'm going to this weekend, not quite as big as yours, is WisCon in Wisconsin, obviously.
WisCon, I love that.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of mad because I thought of that, and then I realized that's actually how I learned about WisCon, is because I was like, we should make a con, like a UHS con, and then we'll have it in Wisconsin because it's cheaper, and we'll call it WisCon. And then I was like, Googled it, and God damn it already is a thing. And then I was like, oh, it's a sci-fi feminist nerd con. Okay, wait, this isn't so bad.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, and there are it's I can't remember what the cost is to get in, but it's a really nice con once you get there. They have tons of rooms, tons of panels. The vendor room, which is where I spend most of my time, obviously, is very nice.
Oh, because you're working there.
Yeah, unlockable. We can lock the room so that we don't have to worry about our shit getting stolen at night. So yeah, that's when I go. I just go and to sell UHS comic books. So yeah, so if you're in the general Madison, Wisconsin area this weekend and you want to stop in and grab Unlike the Heroes book, then come see me. I'll be there. Yay. And yeah, so did we get everything now? Did we catch up on all
if we can finish in like a minute and a few seconds, we can keep it under 2 hours this time. A rarity.
Okay, hold on. I have to go down the whole history of the Gamera franchise. Give me a minute.
And go to black.
Way more than a few minutes. Okay. Everybody, have a good night. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Keston. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, but definitely next week. Bye.
Bye.